On September 11th, 2001, 4 hijacked planes crashed throughout the United States. 2 crashed into the World Trade Center, collapsing both towers. 1 crashed into the Pentagon, and the 4th crashed into a field in Pennsylvania after its passengers managed to wrestle back control. Almost 3,000 people died in the attack. Afterwards, the U.S. ordered troops in Afghanistan, and the CIA began searching for those involved. With the capture of multiple accused al-Qaeda operatives, the CIA tried to extract information from them. With new methods, carefully labeled enhanced interrogation techniques, the CIA was put under a microscope as Senator Dianne Feinstein ordered an investigation. The resulting Senate Intelligence Committee's report on the CIA torture after 9/11 led to changes in national views on the U.S. government and changes in the argument of human rights. But the U.S. government did not change as a result.
The prevention of further terrorist attacks and the finding of bin Laden have also been dismissed.
I believe that it was contrary to our values and ideals and principles to conduct these kinds of activities.
The so-called torture report angered many people, including other countries, which damaged the United States' reputation on a global level. The report documented how much money the detention centers cost, which was in the millions, while also forcing other countries to provide complete information on those detained. Money leads to conflicts everywhere, and on such a large level, with the U.S. arguing for information they were denied, those relations fell apart. When the report was released, other countries began to investigate the CIA, further allowing the U.S. to fall from its position of global power, especially from its seat in the human rights category, as the so-called protectors against torture. Even people inside the government lost faith that day, such as Senator John McCain, who also experienced torture himself in the Vietnam War.
Most of all, I know the use of torture compromises that which most distinguishes us from our enemies. Our belief that all people, even captured enemies, possess basic human rights which are protected by international conventions the United States not only joined, but for the most part authored.
The torture conducted by the CIA was brutal, consisting of multiple punishments inflicted on the detainees, specifically referred to as enhanced interrogation techniques, and not as torture.
Waterboarding, beatings, conditions so brutal, one detainee apparently froze to death, others kept awake for days, forced to stand on broken legs, rectal feedings. During his confirmation hearing last year, Brennan suggested he didn't know fully what was going on back then.
Many things that I read in that report that were very concerning and disturbing to me.
With the publication of the report, people began to question the use of torture. There was a mix of those saying that torture was justified and those who thought it was inhumane. As time went on, many Americans began to support torture, but it's important to note how angry U.S. citizens were in the wake of 9/11. Many thought the torture of those involved in the attack was justified, especially if those individuals caused the death of almost 3,000 people. It is reasonable to assume that the anger felt influenced the view of torture. However, even those closely affected by the attack began to question the reality of the situation. But there's also the facts that were released with the report. It was documented that torture didn't work, that it didn't lead to the killing of bin Laden, that it didn't lead to any new information, and most importantly, that some of the detainees were never even involved in 9/11 and were falsely accused.
We have not concluded that it was the use of EITs within that program that allowed us to obtain useful information from detainees subjected to them. The cause and effect relationship between the use of EITs and useful information subsequently provided by the detainee is, in my view, unknowable.
With the CIA having such an influence over the government, it isn't surprising the lack of change following the report. In fact, despite the repercussions of the past, reports have been found of current CIA bases that still tortured for quote-unquote needed information. Despite lawyers fighting for those detainees and public backlash, the CIA continues. It is important to note that, while prosecution is unlikely, the attention gained from the torture report is the goal. It is important to remember those involved in the torture in order to bring change and justice to those affected. There must be a purpose to the actions resulting from the report, whether they be accountability, change, or something else entirely.
At some point along the way, we had acquired that review through the document production process. That prompted the CIA to enter the secret room out in Virginia that the Senate Intelligence Committee was using to conduct this investigation, to search that room and to search our emails and to search our documents. The CIA contended that we were not authorized to have this document and that the staff must have obtained that document in some unlawful manner. Truth be told, I don't know what could have been more relevant to the Senate conducting an investigation of the CIA's detention interrogation program than an internal review by the same organization into their own program. There is a video you can find of Senator McCain and Senator Lindsey Graham discussing the infiltration of the Senate computers by the CIA.
This is out of a movie. And I really never believed. I never believed that an agency of government, particularly with the capabilities of the CIA, would carry out such actions, which is a clearly unconstitutional.
There's even been evidence of the CIA blackmailing and fighting against the Intelligence Committee in the days before the release of the torture report. Actions against the report have been backed up over the years, with former CIA agents claiming that they were in the right to torture those involved in 9/11, and that the report was false or taken out of context. Even today, the government still uses its power to hide secrets about those in charge from the nation, eerily similar to their actions at the beginning of the century, proving that we really haven't come all that far.
Execute on that to the detriment of the country. Of course, there's parallels to today with these phone calls that are going into a separate system at the National Security Council. Are they classified? No. Are they embarrassing? Yes. So they get buried. And really, a democracy can't function appropriately if it doesn't have that kind of information. You can't bury information. Our system's not built on that.
Throughout the release of the report in 2014 into present day, information has been hidden and the government hasn't attempted to fix their wrongdoings. However, if the world continues to question the use of torture, and if national governments continue to question the U.S., maybe eventually there can be change.
History will judge us by our commitment to a just society governed by law and the willingness to face an ugly truth and say never again.